Hey guys, I'm Max Rye. I love talking about AI, how it's going to impact business, and of course your lives. It's been a while since I've been discussing AI. It's been rather slow in the industry for the last few weeks. However, there is a very interesting article that came out talking about an AI winter coming. That was on Fast Company. You can just Google it and check it out. Very interesting. So maybe today I'll talk a little bit about what is an AI winter. An AI winter is basically interest in AI companies dropping quite rapidly, and also the investment in the space. So many of these investors may not feel comfortable in investing in the space. And of course, that's very, very important for startups in the AI space. Many of them need that money, need those funds to be able to continue growing, continue the work that they're doing in the labs. Now, this concept of an AI winter is something that I believe it's fair. I think the article specifically points to generative AI. And on the generative AI space, one thing that we've seen is a lot of hype. A lot of folks were expecting some of these latest generative AIs to really, these models to really have a huge impact in productivity in the corporate space. And it really hasn't. It's still very, very early on. And what happens with investors is some investors, if they're not specialists in the space, they get tired, or that returns are not happening fast enough, and they may no longer want to invest in the space. But aside from that, there is a real concern about productivity with some of these tools, because I still think that number one, people have not been able to harness these tools very well yet. They're still learning them. And number two, these tools themselves are evolving still quite rapidly. So now that we have an idea of what this AI winter is and what's happening right now with these reports, is it really going to make a huge impact in AI in general? My view is actually not really. Some of the biggest players in the space, we're talking about Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, they are so well funded and their teams are so massive. I don't think they're going to be the ones who are impacted. It's really going to be these startups who recently raised funds and are expected to show something to the world. Those are the guys who are really going to feel the impact from many of these investors not being interested in the space at the moment. Now, what are we really seeing in AI that's really impactful? Many of these startups that rely heavily on funding will actually feel the brunt of this. Now, my personal view on this is really that I think some of them really do deserve that cash, but many of them may not. The reality is many of these AI startups are actually, I wouldn't say copycats, but are not doing something majorly unique or different from each other. And what does that really mean? That means that a lot of resources, energy, for example, and hardware, like some of these cutting edge NVIDIA cards that are out there, are going to many, many different companies, and they're not going to the major players who are having a huge impact and who are doing some cutting edge stuff. So I think that a lot of resources are not being allocated properly because of this. So it may not be an entirely bad thing. This type of correction sometimes is needed to kind of refocus and bring that funding back into the space, or to the companies that actually really are doing something very interesting. So during the AI winter, does that mean everybody is gonna, all the companies are not gonna get funded? Well, I mean, maybe if you have something really, really unique, some cutting edge work, trust me, there's plenty of investors out there still for that. Number one. Number two, actually, even some of the major players like Microsoft and OpenAI, those guys themselves will invest into many of these new cutting edge companies that really are doing something exciting. Why? Because if they partner with them, they will themselves will actually benefit greatly from some of this innovative stuff. And this is really what it's all about. These major companies are looking to find some type of edge over each other now. And talking about that edge, it is really, really heated right now in the space. We've seen OpenAI's latest models doing amazing stuff with Chat GPT 4.5. There was a lot of reports that it was falling behind some of these other platforms, but very, very quickly they came out and they are now back at the leader as the leader of this in this whole space. But the Llama 3, which is Meta's latest model, is actually on the heels, and so is Grok, which is Elon Musk's AI company. They're also right there. They released 1.5, which has some really, really exciting features. So I do believe there are other companies that are actually moving into the space as far as being a leader in the space quite rapidly. And those companies are already really, really well funded. And that's why I said that many of these AI startups, if they're not doing something very unique, really that hardware and those resources should go to some of these other companies who are putting out some really exciting stuff. I believe Sam Altman recently mentioned that one of the biggest challenges that he sees in this entire AI space is really energy. It's one of the biggest bottlenecks that's coming up to run these massive, massive models. There's just not enough energy to be able to run some of these major models. And really, if you have some cutting edge companies doing all this work, they should really be prioritized, I think. And speaking of ChatGPT, I believe Sam Altman recently gave a lecture at Stanford, which was really, really packed. And there are rumors that he's been showcasing ChatGPT 5, which has not been released yet, already to some of his private corporate clients who are already getting their hands on it and getting a feel for it. So it's not public yet, but if this does come out, it will be some pretty, pretty huge news. And I'm looking forward to sharing some of that with you as well when it does come out. Why this matters is because what you're going to see is during this AI winter, is many of these companies are still going to be chugging away and they're going to be continuing to release newer and newer models and some really great features, like, for example, maybe a newer version of Sora or so forth. That will continue to keep interest in the AI space. And of course, will continue the funding coming into some of these major, major companies who do have the resources and the manpower to be able to do some exciting stuff. So when is this AI winter going to be over? We don't really know yet, but I think there might be a different type of investments coming into space. Once you see the infrastructure, like for example, when during the internet days, we saw a lot of apps coming out and major, major funds went into some of these apps. We might see something like that as well. Somebody like OpenAI may become the infrastructure for this whole AI space. And you may see some really, really cool use cases coming out of this. And then money may actually go into those use cases to be able to build some really exciting apps or software that can actually change the world. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Max Rye, and see you guys in the next video.